Hello and welcome to the Podcast of Champions. I will be your host and moderator, Lord Deathman. And on today's episode, we continue our coverage of Disney Investor Day 2020 with a breakdown of the most popular Star Wars projects from the webcast as voted on by the community at Sakaar. That's right. You demanded it and we're discussing it. If you want to say in future topics we cover on the show, exercise your political power, people, by voting in our upcoming polls. And, shameless plug, if you're not a member of the Sakaar community, first of all, why not? Second, you don't know what you're missing. And third, you can join the conversation by registering for an account at sakaar.freeforums.net. That's Sakaar, S-A-K-A-A-R. And don't forget to check out our sister community as well, Nowhere, at nowhere-mcu.proboards.net. It all comes down to this, people. Good conversation, good fandom. Hope to see you there. So before we dive into today's topics, before we get to the meat of it and start introducing the panelists, obviously this is about DID 2020 and the Star Wars edition of that, guys. So we're not going to cover the full scope of the content bomb that Disney dropped on us 2 Thursdays past. But I do want to take a look at what I consider to be one of the most super ambitious plans for expanding the Star Wars universe I think that we've heard about in years. So when we look at this roster, I think Disney has us covered across ages, across gender, there's really something for everyone here. There's animated, there's live action, there's cinematic stuff. So just a quick rundown of this list. Within the next few years, Disney's going to be bringing us a droid story, a standalone series about Ahsoka, standalone series about Cassian Andor, Children of Blood and Bone, Lando, Rangers of the New Republic, The Acolyte, The Bad Batch, Star Wars Visions. And as always, we've also got returning Star Wars content that they've been talking about for a long time. So inevitably, The Mandalorian is going to get a season 3 based on that shocker of a season finale, which the guys just taped the previous episode for. So check that out when it drops on the website. My producer here is going to keep me honest in terms of where we can find all forms of social around that, guys. Just check the comments when you're listening to my voice. All that information will be there. So we also have an untitled Taika Waititi film in the Star Wars universe. We can't wait to see what his brand of humor, what his action, what his acumen is going to bring to the franchise. And then we have the long gestating Obi-Wan Kenobi. Our wandering warrior and hermit of the desert is finally going to get his own series on Disney+. So, of course, we are not going to be able to cover the full scope of what Disney has outlined in the webcast, in their presentation. But like I said before, based on the vote and the poll at Sakaar, we're going to be looking at the most popular topics as decided by you, our listeners, our registered members at the community. So I think, honestly, that the term super ambitious might just be an understatement when it comes to this. And I'm very excited for what Disney has planned for Star Wars. So we are now about to enter the arena to introduce today's panelists. When I say your name, champion, take a second to greet the folks at Sakaar and let them know how you're doing today. Maximura.
Hey, everybody, doing great. Can't wait to be talking about this. Obviously, this is a lot of information to unpack. I'm super excited about just about all of it.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing great. Can't wait to talk about the whole Star Wars future.
Outstanding, sir. ShadowBiz?
Oh, hey, yeah, I'm doing better now. Like, I've had my coffee and it's now like an hour past that, so it's kicking in now. I'm much better. Yeah.
All right. Let's hope that the caffeine hits by the time we are into topics. But good to hear from you, sir. Stanton, our shadowy producer in the background, is joining us today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, and just to follow up what Biz had said, I am not on coffee because it's night for me, but we're a super huge global community. It's morning for him. I love that. I think it's one of the best parts about the site. And I am super, super looking forward to the Star Wars future. It's expanding like this is what I've always wanted it to do, and I can't wait to see what they've got.
Outstanding. And last but not least, the champion among champions, the Grandmaster.
Hi. I'm also here. I'm doing great. It's the middle of the night for me. I'm longing for my bed, but I really want to talk Star Wars first.
Outstanding, everybody. Outstanding. Sorry there.
Again.
Just a quick joke there. Longing for bed. And you know what? I think that actually deserves a round of applause for the entire panel, for all of our champions. Here we go. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to be here today. So I'm going to dive right in with our first topic. This one is Andor. This is a standalone Disney series about Cassian Andor. This is set 5 years before the events of Rogue One, and it follows Rebel intelligence operative Cassian Andor during the formative years of the rebellion. So that's quite a log line to unpack there. You know, we have a setting. We ultimately know Cassian Andor's fate, and that might color how people think about this series. And I think Cassian is kind of riding the Rogue One wave. I think that was a reasonably well received, perhaps the best received of the most modern Star Wars films out there. And I think Disney is right to leverage this particular character. I think I have pretty high hopes for the series, but let's turn to our first champion in the arena, Taylor. I want to get your impressions in terms of how do you feel about Cassian Andor as a character and Diego Luna's portrayal of him. What's your outlook for this particular series?
I love Cassian Andor as a character. I loved Rogue One. I thought that was an epic movie. I think the portrayal was spot on, and I think he's a fascinating character, which of course is why Disney obviously decided to give him a series, because we only got hints of his background in that movie, but we knew it was bad A of a background, because we're finally going to get to see a little bit of the, I'm not going to say the dark side, the shadowy side of the rebellion, which every rebellion has and every war has. You have to have the intel side, the guys who do what no one else wants to do. And I think, it's got spy thriller written all over it. So I'm really excited about it.
Outstanding. So you think we're going to get to see a little bit of the rebellion school of dirty tricks and intelligence? People making hard decisions. Outstanding.
Don't bring down an empire by being a nice guy.
Yeah. You can't. Although all of the earlier Star Wars films might lead you to believe differently. But I totally agree with you there on that one. And now I want to turn to Max with a similar question. What's your outlook for the show? What are your expectations for Andor? And tell us a little bit about how you felt about Rogue One. Was Rogue One really the movie that sort of bridged the gap between the older crowds that I was sitting there in 1979, those guys, and the folks who couldn't be more thrilled with the new Skywalker trilogy that we just got?
I found Rogue One to be a great tying in with the very beginning of the past film. Episode 4 obviously started off right after that. It was a spectacular film for that. It answered a question that may not have necessarily needed answering, but when you saw it answered, all of a sudden you were like, this is so much deeper than I thought it was. I thought this was just some small thing, and it was this huge, amazing mission. Add to that the counter for the year system in Star Wars is based off of the battle that happens there at the end. You end up having the importance of this battle being this massive thing. And it was a spectacular show for me. Cassian himself was actually a fulcrum, which is where I'm going to do my shameless plug for Ahsoka. Ahsoka was a fulcrum also. So to know that in his past was some fulcrum activity is a very interesting tie to her and to the rebellion. Obviously, they did the speech for him where his most iconic line was where he was talking about the regrets of the stuff he'd done, but the pride in having done them. It was spectacular to see that thought, because when you participate in battles like that, you always have the question of what the darkness of what you did was, but you also have the pride knowing of what you did hopefully helped the side that you truly believed was going to need to win that. So I thought that was a great thing. I think you're going to see a lot of depth in this character out of that series.
Always an in-depth answer from Max. Love it. Bringing the context, bringing the color. Thank you, sir. You just reminded me of the fact that, of all the Star Wars films that I've seen, and no matter how big the set piece is, how big the conflict, Rogue One was really the first Star Wars movie that I saw, coming from my own generation, that really felt like a war movie. That battle on Scarif was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Wasn't it, guys? But I say that to say thank you, Max, for weighing in on the show. I want to immediately turn to our next champion, Stanton. I want to get your impressions on the show overall, how you felt about Rogue One and the Rogue brand that's sort of evolving out of Disney's success with that particular film. What do you feel this show's going to be like? Is it a spy thriller? Is it a political thriller? Do we see an in-depth character, a character study of Cassian? What is it that you feel we're going to get out of this show?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I was just thinking a political thriller and character study is what I see coming out of this. And just to kind of set this up, Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars film, period. And it's because it felt like a war. It didn't feel like, a space opera. It didn't feel like, a high fantasy novel. It felt like a war. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think the big question coming out of this show is just going to be what needs to happen in war. War is an unfortunate thing in society. It sometimes just has this quality of needing to happen, or feeling like it needs to happen for the betterment of society in the future. Sometimes we have these disagreements that don't seem like, at least up until now in our history, don't seem like they can be resolved in any other way. And we've had moments throughout history, maybe World War II comes to mind most often, that need to end, that need to be solved, and they need to be solved in a dirty, gritty way that maybe we're not always proud of. And that's what Cassian, to me, is probably going to answer.
All right. A very, very considered answer there. And I think that kind of spins off the idea that I think, we're going to see some guerrilla tactics come out of the rebellion. I think really this is going to be Disney's opportunity to sort of bring a new level of sophistication to the warfare side of Star Wars. And I think a lot of fans are looking forward to that. So thank you for that answer, Stanton. I'm continuing on with the panel. Along the same vein, I want to turn to the Grandmaster now to get your take on this particularly bold, somewhat risky series, Cassian Andor. How do you feel about the character? How did you feel about Rogue One? What do you want to see out of the series in particular as a Star Wars fan?
Rogue One is my favorite Disney Star Wars movie, besides The Last Jedi, but that's not a very popular opinion. But yeah, and from that movie, Cassian Andor was by far the most intriguing character. From the moment he stepped onto the screen in that back alley until his final moment on the beach, he was compelling and very interesting. That series, yeah, I'm not going to be able to add a lot to what has been said before. It has the feel of indeed spy, thriller, secret agent stuff, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Right on. Do we think, following on that answer, do we think that Cassian is strictly going to be the good guy of this series? I mean, we saw him assassinate one of his Confederates in cold blood, plot the murder of Jyn Erso's father. No, what are we thinking?
I don't think that. I think he is a very shady character. To make a parallel to the MCU for a second, he would be a perfect guardian of the galaxy. A little bit of good, a little bit of bad, and sometimes a bit of both.
Understood. Stanton, you had more to add on this?
Just a little bit. So I'm assuming almost everybody listening to this has followed The Mandalorian, and we just met a character, or just reacquainted ourselves with a character in episode 7, who was Mayfield. And I think Cassian's going to reflect him a lot. Mayfield brought to light that, he had Imperial history. He was on the Imperial side of things, but when you get to talking to him, this is a very normal person trying to make the best of their life and not trying to be an evil presence to most people in their day-to-day life. And I foresee that is what Cassian's doing as well. He's morally gray, just like Mayfield, and he's going to be doing what he thinks is necessary. But, some of these things he recognizes are bad, some of them he recognizes are good. He's just doing what he feels he needs to do as a human being.
All right. All right. That sounds like the show I want to see. So that being said, ShadowBiz, last but not least, one of our finest champions to step into the arena. I want you to follow on. I saw that you had a hand up, and also bring us your take on Rogue One, specifically the character of Cassian Andor, what you want out of the series, and what you were going to add on to Stanton's thinking.
Yeah, well, Rogue One is definitely probably the best Star Wars movie in the Disney lineup anyway so far. The beach battle was amazing. When I first heard about Rogue One, I thought like it's about stealing the plans for the Death Star. I'm like, does that sound that interesting? But I was blown away by the movie. Like, I was like, yeah, it was going to be hell interesting. Like again, like the battle on Scarif, that was awesome. Like there's like the beach part of it like seemed like exotic, more to like the rest of the Star Wars universe. It was just like great cinematography, great action sequence. Like that was pretty cool. But as for the show with Cassian Andor, like obviously the guy is like an operative of the Rebel Alliance. So yeah, like we've seen him in action, like down in the alleyway. Like he can just go cold in an instant. Like I think he ended up shooting that guy, right? Because they were just about to get found out, and he didn't want any information to be released to the Empire because the stormtroopers are coming or something, right? My memory's a bit fuzzy on that part. And then also, is Saw Gerrera still alive?
Well, being set 5 years before we get to the events of Rogue One, I imagine Saw is still around. But whether we can get Mr. Whitaker onto Disney Plus, that might be a totally different story.
Yeah, because he's a pretty important character because he's seen, like he's like more of the extreme side of the Rebel Alliance. Like I think he's not that well liked by the rebels because as we've seen from the finale of Mandalorians, there was that guy who held the clone scientists hostage, and he saw Alderaan as terrorists. He's been kind of like brainwashed, and Saw is like a legit, I think, terrorist because he's so extreme in his methods. So it will be interesting to definitely see. I mean, it's a possibility that we could see him again down the line, but it will be interesting how they're going to play that whole show out, and then hopefully we see more of him. That's what I would want anyway.
Outstanding. First off, so many smart people in the room as far as the panelists bringing discussion to this particular series. So thank you for all of that, guys. But what I noticed that was lacking from this discussion, Mon Mothma, right? Mon Mothma, she has to come back. The sexiest spy handler we've ever had in Star Wars, right? She played a fairly small role in Rogue One, but was I understanding the movie right in that was Cassian's primary handler, that she was overseeing intelligence for the rebellion? I mean, is this a lesser series if you don't get Mon Mothma, or are you cool with a Mon Mothma-less world?
She could show up. I could see her being a character where he revolves around, but I think you're going to see him mostly off by himself, probably. I don't know. I don't have a lot of predictions for these things, but she'll probably show up, consult with her, get some intel from her occasionally. I'm not sure if she's going to be a main character or not. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'd imagine you'd probably see her.
Yeah, no, I can see that happening. He has to get his orders from someone.
Yeah.
Promotions happen fairly swiftly in the Star Wars universe. I suspect she may not be at the level of handler that she is right now. She might be alongside him. She might achieve something on a mission that he holds back from, or maybe she's the one that convinces him to do something that he hates, and she gets the promotion as a result of it. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to play it out, but it's not guaranteed that Mon Mothma will be in charge at the time, so much as just an active member of the intelligence community.
That sounds about right, as long as she brings the toga, right? The white robe.
Yeah.
I think we'll all be satisfied. So help me out here, Max. I think you're our resident Star Wars expert here. What rank does Cassian Andor hold in the Resistance Army? Is he a captain?
I am going to fail miserably on this answer. I know throughout the times that he's been active, it really depends on the mission where you have somebody like that placed. He could be considered a civilian in some circumstances. He could be considered military in some circumstances. I think with a guy like that, he's Black Ops, and he's a level of Black Ops where even when he's doing the job he's supposed to be doing, he isn't exactly recognizable as a rank in the natural sense.
Makes sense. That being said, guys, it looks like this could be a slam dunk for Disney in terms of their amazing lineup of new series they're bringing to Disney Plus, and it might even be competitive with what they want to bring to the theaters as well. So let's talk about our next topic, guys. And if you're out there in the audience, obviously, we need you to stay tuned. If you're sitting around at home, you're not going to want to miss this discussion on our next upcoming topic here, which is Rangers of the New Republic.